When Paka woke up, he felt something he hadn't felt in what seemed like forever: peace. The weight that had crushed his chest for days was lighter. His muscles still ached, but the searing pain that had once consumed him was now just a dull whisper. He sat up, wincing slightly but smiling through it. His spirit was alive again. From a distance he could hear drum beats, faint, rhythmic, rising and falling like a heartbeat. Were they having a celebration without him? He chuckled at the thought. Maybe now he could finally walk out, greet the village, and ask someone to get him a calabash of beer. That didn't sound bad at all. As he stepped out of the hut, the energy in the air shifted. There was movement, a slight commotion, people gathering, a sense of something coming. His father and mother stood at the edge of the village clearing, flanked by warriors. Their eyes were fixed on the path leading in from the eastern ridge. Something or someone was arriving. Paka made his way through the crowd and took his place beside Leona. She turned her head and gave him a small, warm smile. "You look well," she said softly. "I feel well, Mother," he replied, nodding. "That's good," she said, squeezing his hand gently. Shumba stood just ahead of them, his eyes locked on the road. His body was still, but Paka could feel the tension rolling off him. His father's face was calm, but his jaw was tight. His eyes held something unusual: uncertainty, nerves. Paka furrowed his brow. It was rare, almost unnatural to see Shumba nervous. "What's going on?" he asked, turning to his mother. But before she could answer, the procession arrived. The drums quieted, the crowd shifted, and there, stepping through the dust and sunlight, was a woman draped in fine cloth, her posture elegant, her presence commanding. Paka's eyes widened. It was Aunt Raya. He had never met her, but he had heard of her. The wanderer, the lioness who had rejected the borders of the village, choosing instead to explore the far lands. The story said she had once challenged Shumba in council, that she had said, "This place is too small for minds that dream." And now she was here. Paka stared. She looked like royalty. Every step she took was measured. Her coat was groomed to a shine, and the way her eyes moved across the village, sharp, knowing, sent a ripple through the crowd. He glanced at Shumba. His father's face had changed. He looked like he had seen a ghost. Leona, too, was tense. Her smile had vanished. Her body had subtly shifted forward, protective, guarded. This was not a happy reunion. You are watching The Tales of the Savannah. Subscribe and be part of the tribe. Now let's get back to the story. "Great Shumba," Raya said as she approached, her voice smooth and poised. "It has been too long." She bowed her head respectfully. Then she turned to Leona. "Sister," she said, arms outstretched. Leona stepped forward, giving her a hug, small, restricted, distant. Paka could feel the ice between them. This was not just a visit. This was the beginning of something else, something deeper, something that might change everything. "This must be Paka," Raya said, her voice smooth as silk, but sharpened by something just beneath the surface. Paka shifted slightly, thrown off by her attention. She was striking, regal. There was something fierce behind her calm, something untamed. "I've heard so much about you," she added, her eyes locking onto his. Paka hesitated, then offered a soft smile. "And a lot about you." She stepped closer. Without warning, she embraced him. He tensed, surprised, but something about her felt warm, familiar. She smelled of wildflowers and spice, something earthy and soft all at once. It caught him off guard. For a moment he forgot his confusion and thought only, she smells so good. Then came the next blow. A young man stepped forward from behind her, tall, confident and impeccably dressed in fine cloth and jewelry. He looked regal. His skin glowed, and his expression was neither warm nor cold. He looked at Paka with sharp eyes, calculating, measuring. Paka felt like he was looking at a better, well-groomed version of himself. "This is my son," Raya said, her voice rising ever so slightly. like a stone thrown into a still pond. Paka blinked. "Your son?" Raya nodded. "Yes. I wanted him to know his roots." The way she said it, her eyes briefly flicking toward Shumba, was not just a statement. It was a statement with teeth. Behind Paka, Leona's body had gone completely still, her arms folded tightly, her jaw locked. Paka could feel the air shift. The once curious murmurs of the villagers around them began to die down into silence as the tension twisted the space around them. Everyone knew the story. Shumba and Raya, once inseparable. They were the fire and breath of the village. Everyone had believed that Raya would be queen, but she hadn't wanted the title. She had wanted freedom, and so she had left, breaking Shumba's heart so completely that for weeks he didn't speak a word. And Leona had been there. Leona, the calm after the storm, the peace after the war. She had comforted him, healed him, loved him, and together they built something new. But now Raya was back, with a son the same age as Paka. And Shumba was staring. Paka turned and saw it. His father's face, stone still, but his eyes were glass, holding back 1,000 thoughts. Hurt, confusion, joy, and something he couldn't hide. Love. Shumba's gaze flicked from Raya to the young man beside her. His lips parted slightly, as if he might say something, ask something. But then he caught himself. Not here, not now, not in front of Leona, not in front of Paka, not like this. Leona's voice broke the silence, cold, controlled. "Welcome, sister," she said, though the word came like a blade pressed to the skin. Raya smiled gently, knowingly. She thrived in this discomfort. She had always been a fire starter, and Shumba had once loved her for it. And maybe, Paka thought with a sick feeling in his stomach, he still did. There was a long pause. The air was heavy. No one dared speak. Finally, Shumba found his voice. "You are welcome here, Raya." "And your son," he said, each word slow, deliberate. His eyes avoided Leona's. Then, to the guards nearby, he added, "Prepare a place for them." He bowed his head slightly, and then he turned and walked away. His shoulders were stiff. His pace was fast. He didn't look back, because if he did, the truth would shatter everything. One bright morning, Chipo stood in the middle of the compound with a dramatic huff and declared, "I am done with knitting." Jabali looked up from sharpening his axe, blinking like he'd misheard. "Done? You mean like actually done?" "Yes, father," she said proudly. "I have completed my project." He eyed the overflowing box beside her. "Project? You never said it was a project. We all just thought it was a phase, like that time you tried to train chickens to dance." Jabali laughed. Chipo gave him a smug look. That was different. He leaned over and poked one of the colorful knits in the box. "Are these jumpers?" "They're berets," she said flatly. He blinked. "Okay, and this is a sock for a goat?" "It's a scarf, father." Jabali went back to sharpening his axe. "Well, if it's done, praise be. That knitting made you look like someone's retired aunt. Thank the ancestors." Chipo beamed. "Thank you, father." "It was not a compliment, Chipo," he muttered beneath his breath. But Chipo didn't care. The work was done. It was time for phase 2. The next morning, Jabali was woken up by a strange chorus outside. "Left, right, left, right!" He sat up, eyes crusty with sleep. He shuffled outside, barefoot, still sleepy. And what he saw nearly made him trip on his own feet. There in the compound was Chipo, leading a small army. 10 scrappy children marched in a crooked line, wearing her strange knit hats, some pulled over their eyes, others slouching sideways like sad mushrooms. A few wore matching scarves, knotted dramatically around their necks like little vigilantes. "You, march straighter!" Chipo barked at one boy, who immediately started marching sideways. Jabali gawked. "Chipo, what in the name of roasted bananas is happening here?" She turned around. proudly puffing her chest. "Father, welcome to the dawn of change. This is my organization." "Your what?" "My organization. The village is no longer safe. There are whispers of lion people, and the children and women are scared. This group is for defense, something you've clearly neglected as chief." Jabali crossed his arms. "So, a militia?" "An organization, father. Not a militia." He surveyed the unit. One boy was scratching his bum with dedication. Another was balancing on crutches, chewing a stick. "This is not an organization, Chipo. This is a knitted disaster parade." A hand shot up. "Commander Chipo, can I go? Go quickly." Another hand. "Me too." Now a chorus. "Me too. Me too." Jabali's face twisted as he tried not to laugh. "So what's the grand plan, Commander Chipo?" "They're not disciplined yet. Today is day 1, she said with great dignity. "By day 10, we'll be village legends." He stifled a grin. "And what's your list of official complaints?" Chipo squared her shoulders. 1. Children cannot sleep peacefully. I, for instance, have suffered greatly." "I sleep fine, Commander Chipo," one child piped. 2, Chipo barked, ignoring the interruption. "There's no youth representation in this village. We need leadership from the ground up." Jabali nodded solemnly. "Very deep, revolutionary stuff. I plan to take over the village within 6 months." "I'm hungry," one boy whined. "Me too," echoed another. "Great. I'm happy for you. But feed them from your own pot," Jabali added, heading back inside. "Wait, what?" He turned, smiling sweetly. "If this is your organization, I assume you've also organized meals for it." Chipo stood still, sweat forming on her brow. She hadn't planned this far ahead. A beat of silence. Then she lifted her chin. "We are warriors. We do not fear hunger." Jabali laughed all the way back to the house. "Let me know when your soldiers start eating their berets. That'll be the true revolution." Chipo stayed firm, though her stomach growled in betrayal. Day 1 was a lot, but she wasn't going down without a fight. The air was cool, the light still golden and gentle. The wedding site had been chosen with care, the very cliffside where Dziva joked he would like to look upon her milk and honey, where they had laughed like fools, overlooking the river and her kingdom. It overlooked the water that sustained her kingdom, and the skies that Dziva had always claimed made her glow like something divine. The wedding was small, quiet, but meaningful. It was a sacred merging of 2 powerful worlds, the snake people of the land and the merfolk of the sea, each bringing their heritage into a ceremony never before seen in the known kingdoms. The snake people prepared the altar. Crafted from winding branches, dried serpent skins and white blossoms soaked in sacred oils, it curled like a rising cobra at the center of the ceremonial space. Incense made of crushed river reeds and wild herbs burned from copper dishes, the scent grounding everyone in earth and memory. Their priestesses, clad in sheer fabrics embroidered with silver snakes, whispered ancient chants while pouring sacred oils into the ground, a blessing to the ancestors, asking them to witness this bond and bless it with strength and protection. Song and rhythm flowed. The merfolk women sang in a haunting minor key, their voices layered and echoing, carried up from the water to the cliffs. Their melodies were old, older than memory, and they sang of legacy, of love born in unlikely tides. Dziva arrived first. His cloak was white, trimmed with scales from deep-sea dragons, a token of royalty in his kingdom. His body was still healing, but his eyes were calm, focused. He took his place at the altar and waited. Amina emerged slowly from the edge of the sacred forest. Her gown was hand-woven by the elders of the snake people, dyed with natural greens, soft browns, and golden threads that caught the sun. Her veil was sheer, dotted with shimmering stones from the sea, a gift from Dziva's people. She did not walk alone. She was flanked by 2 women from each world, one snake and one mer. They symbolized the joining of the 2 bloodlines. They walked barefoot. As Amina approached, she held a single white flower in her hand, the same kind she had once thrown into the river when she believed Dziva dead. But now, she carried it to him. He looked into her eyes, and something in his heart settled. Dziva had run from this moment more times than he could count. Every time someone had asked for commitment, for ceremony, for something real, he vanished. He could charm, he could love, but he could never stand still. Until now. He looked at the view once more and nodded to himself. But something tugged at him. A presence in the water. Quiet, unseen, watching. Could it be her? Mami Wata? Her spies? Her people? He had tried to keep the wedding small, quiet. The news had been guarded like a military secret. But she had her ways. She always did. He just needed the ceremony to end, cleanly, quickly, before anything could interrupt. Tuhaka stood at the edge of the gathering, the noise of celebration humming all around him, but he barely heard it. His eyes, his heart, were locked on her. Kitapo. She was everything the elders had said she was, poised, sharp, untouchable. She sat near the front, among the royal women, posture perfect, face composed. Kitapo felt it before she saw it, a slow burn across her skin, like heat from a sun that hadn't yet risen. She could feel someone watching her, not in the casual way people looked at a princess, but something deeper, focused. Her eyes scanned the room, and then, there he was. He stood at the far end of the ceremony, still, tall, regal in posture. His eyes, those eyes, were locked onto her with a calm certainty. He wasn't trying to hide it. He didn't flinch or glance away like most people did when they accidentally met her gaze. He held it. He dared to. What a rude young man, she thought, lifting her chin ever so slightly. Did he not know who she was? She studied him back, her gaze narrowing. His clothes were fine and ceremonial. Interesting. But that didn't explain the confidence, if not the arrogance. Still, why was he staring like that? Did no one teach him it was impolite to look at a woman, a princess, like that across a full wedding ceremony? But he didn't blink. He didn't smirk. He just watched. And now she couldn't look away either. Their gazes tangled like vines in a slow wind. The moment stretched. Too long. She wanted him to look away. She wanted to win this silent standoff, but her breath hitched, and she lost. She dropped her gaze first. Why is my heart racing? Across the room, Tuhaka exhaled sharply. He hadn't realized he was holding his breath. He had almost looked away. Almost. He had warned himself not to come on too strong. He didn't want to scare her before he had even gotten the chance to say hello. He turned his attention elsewhere. The bride and groom, the ceremony, and then he felt her eyes on him. He looked back. She was watching him now. And when he met her gaze again, he did it differently this time. With calm certainty, with the quiet arrogance of a man who knew who he was. Kitapo narrowed her eyes. He dared stare back. She had not imagined it. Still not flinching. What a ridiculous young man. But her lips, they curved, just a little. She didn't know why, but she smiled and looked away again. A few days earlier, beneath the gentle currents of Lulenga's underwater realm, a visitor had arrived. Tuhaka had not come with fanfare. No guards, no entourage, only purpose. He was brought to a private chamber. Lulenga was waiting. Tuhaka entered with calm respect, bowing slightly. "Thank you for seeing me, King Lulenga." Lulenga nodded once, his eyes sharp. "You came all this way alone." "I did," Tuhaka said. "The war is over, and I would like to continue the conversation we began before it." Lulenga studied him in silence for a long moment. The young man stood tall, not prideful, but anchored, still carrying the fire of battle in his spine, but tempered now, matured. He respected that. Tuhaka didn't flinch. "Time is sacred, especially for a mighty ruler like you, sir, so I will get to the point." A flicker of a smile touched Lulenga's lips. He gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit then." Tuhaka obeyed. "I know what you've come for," Lulenga said, "and I won't play riddles with you. If you want to court my daughter, you'll have to win her heart. I won't command her heart. If I tell Chipo what to do, she'll say no just to spite me." Tuhaka nodded, quietly accepting the challenge. "But know this, Tuhaka. I will bless the union. Should she choose you, you have my support." Tuhaka smiled, out of relief. "That's all I hoped for." Lulenga then spoke, "Come to Dziva's wedding. She will be there. And good luck to you." They both bowed, and Tuhaka left. Meanwhile, Lulenga stood between Dziva and Amina, robes of both river and ocean wrapped around his tall frame. His head was adorned with a crown made of interwoven kelp and woven snake leather, a symbol of balance. The crowd fell into silence. Lulenga's voice was calm, measured, full of quiet power. "Today the land meets the sea. The tide joins the earth. The blood of the serpents twines with the salt of the ocean. This is not a union of love alone, but of legacy, of kingdom, of courage." He looked at Dziva. "Dziva of the sea, you have bled for this world. Do you come here with open hands?" Dziva stepped forward, hands out. "I do." He looked at Amina. "Amina of the land, you have ruled with wisdom and love. Do you come here with open heart?" Amina nodded, her voice unwavering. "I do." "Then let the land give to the sea, and the sea give to the land." He took the white flower from Amina and placed it between them. He then pulled a braided cord, one made from snakeskin and coral thread, and bound their hands gently together. "Let it be known across all realms," Lulenga said, louder now, voice rising with finality, "that today, legacy begins. Not with war, not with blood, but with choice. You may seal this bond." Dziva turned to her, his hand brushing her cheek. He did not hesitate. Their kiss was long, slow, and full of everything, hope and prayers intertwined. The crowd, small but full of heart, rose in cheers and song. Later that night, the music rose like a tide, the drums thumping in rhythm with the dancers' feet as laughter and light spilled through the celebration. The wedding had become a full-blown festival, with wine flowing and the stars themselves peeking through the sky just to watch. Chipo, ever composed, ever graceful, had been dodging dances and politely declining questions all night. But her mind hadn't been on the music, or the guests, or even the bride and groom. No, her thoughts had been circling one thing. Him. That young man. The one who'd been looking at her all day like he was trying to memorize the angles of her soul. She scanned the crowd again, and there he was, still looking, still bold, still standing like he belonged to the moment. Enough is enough, she thought. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and began to walk toward him. Slowly, deliberately. Her steps were as elegant as a queen's march, but inside, his heart stopped. Tuhaka forgot how to breathe. He had been preparing to approach when she was alone, but she was now heading directly to him. He panicked. Should he look away? Smile? Say something witty? Run? But it was too late. There she was, standing right in front of him, close enough to smell the rose oil in her hair. She tilted her head slightly, her expression curious. "Has anyone ever told you not to stare at people?" His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Do you know I could have you flogged for that?" Tuhaka blinked. His brain screamed, "Say something smart, say something charming." Then he spoke. "Then it would be the best flogging of my life." Chipo blinked, then laughed. She laughed. He relaxed for half a second. Success. "Who are you?" she asked, still smiling but clearly intrigued. "I've never seen you before, and I never forget a face." He was about to speak, finally ready to introduce himself, but of course, fate intervened. "Ah, I see you've met King Tuhaka," Lulenga's voice, cheerfully booming from behind. Chipo froze. She turned like a badly oiled door. "King?" she echoed. Lulenga grinned. "Yes, King Tuhaka. And you, young man, I see you've met my daughter." Chipo's heart dropped to her knees. Her face flushed a royal shade of mortified red. "My apologies, my king," she mumbled, not knowing if she should kneel, curtsy, or disappear altogether. She almost dropped into a full bow right there, but that would make it worse. So instead, she just stared at her father like he had personally betrayed her. Paka, to his credit, smiled coolly and said, "We were having quite an interesting conversation, actually." Save me, Chipo thought. Just drag me into the ocean. "Well, I'll leave you two to it," Linger said, clearly entertained, and walked away. Now there she was, eyes on the ground, palms sweaty, mortified beyond belief, and this royal stranger was still standing there, probably laughing on the inside. "You were saying about having me flogged?" he asked, voice low, teasing, dangerous. She stared at the ground. Silence. He took a step closer. "Would you like to dance?" She looked up, startled. "Yes," she said too quickly. "I would like that very much." She gave a small bow, desperate to do something with her hands, her feet, anything. At least dancing would save her from saying something else stupid. At least dancing meant she wouldn't be staring at the ground anymore. At least it wasn't another flogging joke. As soon as they stepped onto the dance floor, Chipo barely had time to collect her thoughts. And then, just her luck, the rhythm of the drums shifted. Gone were the loud, celebratory beats that had everyone clapping and spinning with wild energy. Now, the drums softened, slower, deeper, smoother. The kind of rhythm that made couples lean closer, that made hearts beat in time, that made onlookers quietly drift away to give space. Of course, she thought. Of course, the moment I step onto the floor with the most intimidating man I've ever met, the drums decide it's time for romance. She tried not to panic, tried not to notice how close he stood now, how his hand found the small of her back just right, how his other hand held hers gently, but firmly, like he wasn't letting go anytime soon. She cleared her throat. They changed the song. Paka raised an eyebrow, amused. "So I hear." She cursed the drums silently, and the stars, and the very concept of fate. Still, she didn't step away, and neither did he. Far across the ocean, a sharp knock echoed against Mummy Wata's chamber doors. She sat, robe loose, eyes closed, meditating in the soft rhythm of the tides, until the urgency of the knock pulled her upright. "Enter," she said. The door creaked open. The messenger looked pale, nervous. She stood slowly, her instincts bristling. "What is it?" He swallowed. "Dziva. He was married today." The room seemed to tilt. "He what?" "To the Snake Queen. Quiet ceremony. Very private." She stared at him, the words wrapping around her like a noose. "Married. To Amina." The words burned in her ears. Her breath hitched. Her vision blurred. But it wasn't sadness. Not quite. It was rage. She had once offered herself to him. If not for love, then for unity. For control. He had said he wasn't ready. They had played their games. He had promised nothing, yet taken everything. And now, suddenly, he was ready. He had chosen someone else. In silence. In secrecy. Her voice was low, sharp. So he wants war after all. She turned toward the ocean, her rage rolling in like a storm tide. "Let the seas remember this betrayal. Let them carry my fury to every kingdom. If peace was the cost of his silence, then war will be the price of his marriage." And deep in her heart, a storm was born. And that, my dear tribe members, marks the end of our very first episode of Season 3. I truly hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This week's story took a dramatic turn. Paka has recovered, but just beyond the village, a surprise awaits. Aunt Raya makes a stunning appearance, and she's not alone. She brings a son. Could this be Paka's brother? No, half-brother cousin perhaps. Meanwhile, Chipo takes bold steps to form an organization to address village grievances, but she's quickly learning that leading change is no easy task. In a quiet secret ceremony attended only by their kin, Dziva and Amina finally seal their bond in marriage. But beneath the hush of celebration, another romance begins to bloom. Chipo and Paka. Is it the start of something real or just a fleeting moment? And finally, across the waters, Mami Wata learns that Lulenga is now wed. She is not pleased, and she's ready to act. Season 3 is off to a fiery start. Stay tuned, tribe. Want to support the channel and become an even bigger part of our tribe? You can join for as little as the cost of a coffee each month. Your support helps me continue creating the content you love, but of course, just having you here is already more than enough. Thank you for being part of this journey. To those of you who have already joined the tribe, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are truly the heartbeat of this channel. And as always, thank you for watching our story, and we hope you enjoyed it. What lessons did you draw from this story? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of the tribe. Thank you for watching The Tales of the Savannah. We will see you next time in the Savannah.